courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast. This is episode number 459, the first episode for 2023. New year, same great basketball discussion. I am Andrew Now Forum, and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. I'm joined as always by my co-host Derek. He is Deeper3 Now Forum, and also on Twitter at Deeper3G and Deeper384. Derek, we're back. Happy New Year to you and all of our listeners. You ready to play some basketball games this year?
Oh, absolutely. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to our community. Let's make this year a good one. However, I am super excited for this show, Andrew.
A lot of great responses to your prompt this week. People had a blast with basketball gaming in 2022, as we did.
Yeah. I'm excited to go over the community responses to the question of what they were playing in 2022 and, what games they were having the most fun with as well. And what's awesome about the responses from our community is that what you realize is that people weren't just playing the newest game. They were venturing out and playing a lot of the classics, whether it be NBA 2K, NBA Live, NBA Shootout, etc. And I just thought that was super cool. So yeah, this show is all about the community, and we're going to reflect on a great year of basketball gaming.
It was quite heartening to see all the different titles that people were mentioning, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not ashamed that we go back and play all these old games. I think that's a great thing to do. I'm very glad to do that. But it's not just us. Everybody that responded seems to be doing that. And I just love it because a lot of people are having fun with 2K23, which is great. We want the new games to be better and better all the time, and that's what we're always pushing for with our feedback and so forth. But yeah, people are going back and playing the classics and other more recent classics and old classics alike. And yeah, I love to see that.
Yeah, and while you and I have been playing NBA 2K23 since launch, we had a jam-packed year of basketball gaming ourselves. In connecting on Parsec to play together or against each other, etc. I mean, you and I connected on we double dribble, NBA Live 95, NBA Live 96, double dribble playoff edition. We connected on NBA Live 98, Live 99, NBA Live 2000. Pretty sure we had a couple games on NBA Live 2003, played NBA Live 2001. How many different games did you and I play? I mean, we played the All-Star game, I want to say on NBA 2K13.
Yes.
We played 2K7, the TJ Ford and Keon dueling battle. So we were playing live, we were playing 2K, we were playing poor releases from the past.
College basketball, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we played college basketball. Yeah, we played NCAA basketball 10. We connected on so many games. It was a great year for connecting on Parsec with the community, and then with you, and we just played so many different games, and it was a lot of fun.
And for me, as I've said before, moving away from that annual grind, from okay, I've got a new year, new my player kind of thing, grinding up every single year. That moving away from that has just been so refreshing. I've been able to go back and play old games, which is something I used to do back in the day before I was addicted to, if you will, the grind. So just pushing it even further last year and trying out some new games and dipping into the collection a little bit more was so refreshing. And yeah, I certainly enjoyed having that variety last year. I mean, obviously 2K14, as you know, was a constant for me.
Yeah, and all year you were in the top 10 plays of the week, the NLSC top 10, with 2K14 highlights. And even when 2K23 came out and you were playing it a little bit, it was still 2K14 that I was getting the highlights from. And I thought that was really cool that you stuck with that. And as you know, I stuck with NBA 2K17 as the primary game, but with my brothers and I, as far as doing fantasy drafts and actually playing competitively, or all three of us on the same team. And we dabbled a little bit with 2K16 for the same type of gameplay. But yeah, there's something amazing about not only going back to an old favorite, but making an old favorite once again part of your rotation. And I think it would be great if more people did that. because I think there's a lot of people in the community who do feel like they'll be left out if they don't jump on the newest game, or they feel like almost pressured to jump on and play the newest game, etc. But when they could really just be having more fun and more fun with people around them locally with like an old favorite.
Oh, I agree. And the other thing that I really enjoyed last year was revisiting games with mods and revisiting some old mods. Because look, these old games are great to revisit vanilla, and I'll very happily do that. But being able to revisit them with some old mods from our NLSC founders, Tim and Lutz and Brian, their work that I hadn't played in many years, dusting those games off with those mods was really cool.
How great were our sessions on NBA Live 98 and Live 99?
Blast.
Using the champs rosters and all-time rosters. It was a blast. The gameplay, sure, simple in many different ways as far as in comparison to, all the different things you can do now with like right stick usage and all the different animations you can see now in the games. Sure, like it's back then, the games were a little bit more primitive, but man, those controls are still awesome, aren't they? The game flows so well. You can still create great highlights. Teamwork still matters. The computer is still competitive. And like you had stated, roster mods can often just make the whole experience that much better. And Tim and Lutz champs rosters and all-time teams rosters were absolutely excellent. And even that loose, fun experience we had on NBA Live 2000 playing on arcade mode and just doing those high-flying dunks. It doesn't always need to be super competitive, right?
No.
We were able to jump on the virtual hardwood using Parsec on Live 2000 and take the court with the 90s All-Stars and pummel the computer on arcade mode, and it was just high-flying dunks from Jordan and Pippen and whatnot, and it was just loose, clean fun. I liked the way that, you and I were able to mix it up this year. We played college and NBA from all different companies, but then we also got our arcade kicks in. Because remember, we were able to connect on NBA Jam on Fire Edition and, play a bunch of much more of the road trip on that game. We were able to play a mod for one of the older NBA Jams that when you were hosting, and we were able to play NBA Street at one point as well. We connected on NBA Street Volume 2 and used Magic, Jordan, and I want to say Bill Walton on the same team. Yep. So, we were able to experience all the greatness of basketball gaming and basketball gaming's past just in the year of 2022. And we're very fortunate to have the tools that we had to do that, like Parsec in order to connect online, the emulators, obviously the PC release titles, etc. But yeah, it was a really good year for us basketball gaming wise in our own households, and then also being able to connect.
We're going to definitely push that more in 2023, and we have a very receptive audience to that, judging by the responses we got to your question. We're not alone, as we said, in wanting to play these older games, mixing it up with, yes, the current game, 2K23, but also going back to classics as well. And you bring up the arcade mode in Live 2000, switching it to the high-flying dunks and everything. And that also speaks to wanting to play something that isn't available in newer games. These experiences that are no longer available because it's all come down to grinding up a player or collecting cards or playing online. You don't have some of these creative modes anymore. Of course, you do have tremendous modes with My NBA Eras and so forth. It's not that there's nothing in the new games. There's plenty to enjoy in 2K23, as we said when we gave our ultimate review of NBA 2K23 late last year.
Right. But a perfect example of that is Nate and Roger, the Live 01 Legends, playing NBA Live 2005 and using All-Star Weekend.
The dunk contest,
and doing that dunk contest, and that was the number one play of this week of Vince Carter off the video monitor, passed
off the
to
big
himself.
Screen, yeah,
off the big screen and whatnot, and then going under his leg for a jam. You can jump into NBA Live 2005 and actually get an experience that you don't get in NBA 2K23
exactly.
or in NBA Live 19, and that's beautiful.
And I think that's why other people, in fact I'm sure of it, is why they're revisiting these games the same way, for the same reasons we are, because you can have these experiences that are no longer available. You know, would I play the arcade mode of Live 2000 every single time? No, but it was damn fun to revisit with you.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite experiences, actually, of the whole year. And the YouTube video, too, did very well as far as people tuning in and commenting and liking the video and whatnot. They just really enjoyed that footage. You know, and the other portion of this, you had mentioned mods. I've been revisiting NBA 2K13 and NBA 2K14 a lot recently with my brother Nick. And the fact that you can get up-to-date mods, like all the way up to the end of 2022 for those two games, and the gameplay is so good on 2K13 and 2K14 PC that, you know, if you're not enjoying the gameplay on NBA 2K23 and you have just like, even if it's an old PC, but you have a PC that can play games and whatnot, you can download the most up-to-date rosters, and they're super accurate on the URB and UBR, and plug those in and get the gameplay experience you want with new rosters. So if your reason for moving on to the new game, which I think is for some people, if your reason is to, you know, well, they have the most updated rosters, right? Like it's the most updated NBA rosters. You don't have to play 2K23. You could go and play those rosters on 2K14 or 2K13, and they're super accurate. And the mods in relation to the jerseys and the courts and the arenas and everything, it looks amazing. And you get the gameplay you want. So we've been playing those mods for 2K13 and 2K14 and just having an absolute blast because we love NBA 2K13 and NBA 2K14's gameplay.
They hold up. Those games hold up, and this is something that we've been saying for a long time now, that a lot of games, even older than that, do hold up, and they are worth revisiting. But again, clearly we're not alone in that, and again, it's very heartwarming to see that. And there's just a huge variety of games. Going through these responses on Twitter, just the amount of games that people are playing, there are a lot of people like us.
And I just love that the community's been involved. The top 10 in 2022, I think you would agree, was special. Just all the great submissions by the community, different people getting involved, just the quality of the highlights that were submitted from all different titles. It wasn't always a 2K23 title. It was some games from the past and everything. And I want to thank the community for that, for staying engaged, getting involved with the top 10, getting involved with your articles and sharing those, getting involved with our other YouTube content, connecting with us on Parsec, all of that stuff. Just an awesome year from the community in 2022.
And more fun to come in 2023, and more discussion from us, the podcast throughout the year, of course, and more commentary on the situation. So before we get to those responses, Derek, I did want to touch on an issue that was brought to my attention on Twitter from Dirtbug Josh. Josh is a member of our forum, Donatello, also a member of the NLSC team and a moderator for a while there as well. Had a bit of a nasty experience, if you will, with a basketball sim game. Just a management game. $7 this game goes for on Steam. I kind of don't want to mention the name of the game. I mean, maybe we should name and shame. Maybe it's any good publicity is, you know, any publicity is good publicity. But this management game goes for $7 US, I imagine. It also has $1.69 microtransactions to attract star players, and he brought this up in the Steam support forums. $1.69 for points to hire coaches, JFC, as we know what that stands for, refund. And there was a very shill comment saying that you're being disgraceful, and then the developer responded and basically said, oh, you're being rude, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. And it's an ad hominem. We were talking about this before we started recording, Derek, but what a gross attitude. I mean, the fact that the microtransactions are there is gross to begin with, but what a gross response from that developer.
So my first thought when I saw this is, be careful what you wish for, and who I'm talking to when I say that, is the people that are trying to promote the idea of having these basketball video games be free to play or super low price on like a subscription model. Because what happens is if you go the free to play route, or you go for like what you said, the game was $7, or you go to, you know, you have a basketball game and whatnot that's only for $7, you can bet that this company is going to do everything they possibly can to make money via microtransactions. And from reading that situation that you shared, it looks like to hire an assistant coach in that game, it's $1.69. To recruit star players, like you stated, it's $1.69. Now, I want you to think about it. If you get into that game and you somewhat like that game or whatnot, or you just like the simulation aspect of it, where there's no, it looks like that game's just like a simulation type game. It's not like a on court, like control the player type game. Imagine how fast that's going to add up once you're done getting your assistant coaches, recruiting your players, all of that stuff. You're going to be spending way more than the price of, a $50 game.
Absolutely.
Or $60 game or $70 game. And all the people that are pushing for, I think it's a good idea if the game is free to play. It's not. Free to play is just to make it sound good, right?
It's how they get
free
you in.
to play.
It's how they get you.
Right. It just gets you in. It just gets you in the front door. And then once you enter the front door, they basically throw all of these charges at you in order for you to get the full experience or somewhat of the full experience. So I'm not surprised that the developer basically threw that guy out of the chat or completely dismissed him and whatnot, because the people that make games like this and who load up their games with microtransactions do not want to be called out on that matter. And they will do what they can to silence people who, make a stink about it. So, that was my first thought when you shared that with me, is this is a money-hungry developer who is just trying to gouge people as much as he possibly can in the wallet, in the form of microtransactions.
It's funny that it's actually more predatory than NBA 2K23 My Team, because at least there it's a full price release, yes, but you can do no money spent, and you get a full other game with other modes apart from that. It's actually it's actually more predatory than 2K23.
Oh, 100%. Not saying that what NBA 2K23 has done is, fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the gamer. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah. Especially since 2K18. All the games since 2K18. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's super predatory. It's not fair to the gamer, and I would never support that title. And I know what the title is because it's on the screenshot, and I can promise you that I will not be supporting that game.
Me neither. But, it reminds me of a post I saw recently on Facebook, especially that second post in that thread that Josh shared, because that second post was supposedly not from the developer. It could easily be a sock puppet. I kind of hope it was a sock puppet and not somebody supporting the game like that. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was somebody shilling for the game, just a user, a gamer, shilling for the game, because as his Facebook post pointed out, it was in response to, I think it was a Kotaku article talking about how the NFTs in games have been shot down, how we kind of push back on that as a community, gamers as a whole push back on that, and have kind of shut down that attempt to bring NFTs to gaming. And one of the responses was, okay, microtransactions next. And the response to that one was disappointingly accurate, actually. Said, we tried, and we do, but the companies, developers, publishers have normalized this, and they've indoctrinated a generation to accept microtransactions as normal. And younger gamers, younger than us, Derek, do very much accept microtransactions as just a way of gaming. And a lot of these practices that we were pushing back on for years, it's very normalized to them. They very much have been indoctrinated into thinking it's normal.
Well, the comment underneath his post, like you stated, it's probably like a sock puppet account or whatnot. But it said, if you don't like it, go play something else. And how many times have we heard that?
That's a stock comeback. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is a very programmed, ridiculous comment. And you hear that a lot with NBA 2K23. It's like, well, if you don't like this about the game, go play something else. Well, we want the games to be, well, yeah, I know, right? But we want the games to be better, and we want them to be fair. And we don't want, our youth of today, these companies reaching into their pocket unfairly. So even if we don't play the game, and I can promise you, we will go play something else. I'm not going to play that game that they're marketing. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a right to speak up about it and speak up about unfair practices that negatively impact the basketball gaming and gaming community in general. So that was definitely like a stock response. It was a very programmed response. We've definitely heard that a lot before. And that's just not the way things work. And it's not the way things are going to work in the future. So,
and look, this is something that we'll always push back on in our commentary. But seeing that post on Facebook, pointing out the normalization of it, the indoctrination of younger gamers, it makes me think, we're doing this for younger gamers, but they're quite, I don't want to stereotype or put out a blanket statement. I'm not saying everybody's happy with it, but the fact that there are
the majority are not. Well, no, the majority are not. They accept it as the norm. There's a big difference between being happy with it or just accepting it as, hey, this is the way things are. So there's definitely a big difference.
That's a good point. No, so it's worth pushing back. It always is worth pushing back. But we have seen those responses, as you said. Oh, you want things just unlockable in games? Go play a game from 2002, old head. And again, okay, sure, I'll definitely do that. But you do see that among the younger gamers, the pushing back on the looking out for their best interest, but they're still pushing back on it, and it makes a lot of sense. And that post kind of really clicked. Like, you know what, I talk about microtransactions a lot in either the podcast or the articles that I write and criticize them, but it is definitely an uphill battle. But I think if nothing else, it's worth putting it out there to let people know. Like, we're not going to get rid of microtransactions, Derek, but it's worth letting people know that this is what's going on, that this is predatory, that if you get into these modes, you're going to be expected to grind this hard or spend this much. Like, that's keeping people informed. Shutting down microtransactions is not going to happen, but keeping people informed, keeping our fellow gamers informed, and supporting our fellow gamers is vital. And I think that's what we should be focusing on in 2023.
I agree. I love when I get a message from you on Twitter and it says something like, "Look at this BS," because I know it's going to be something juicy. I know that it's going to be something that you and I are definitely going to agree on. And normally when you send me a message like that, it's related to unfair practices, right? It's related to microtransaction BS or just in general being like unfair to the gamer and companies trying to take advantage of the population in some way. So yeah, whenever I get a message like that from you, my ears perk up, I guess you could say. And I'm just like, I know that we're going to end up having a good discussion about it.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community. But of course, you don't have to play games with microtransactions. A lot of people don't. Or at least avoid the recurrent revenue mechanics in those games. So, Derek, how about we get to those responses from the community?
No, super exciting. So many people responded to this week's mailbag to talk about what they were playing in 2022 and what they had the most fun with. So let's get to it.
So first up is Steven, the Live King, Steve from the Dot, went back and played NBA Live 09. Forgot how I customized that gameplay to be 10 times more fun until my 360 died. NBA 2K23, My NBA eras and playoffs. 2K still need to allow us to import custom rosters for the playoffs.
Yeah. So NBA Live 09, I know that he had revisited that, and I saw him share a few clips on it. He is a slider guru. Steve from the Dot, he, like you stated, the Live King, he's been messing with sliders for over a decade on these games, and he's very good at customizing the experience and making it better for himself. And I know that he's helped other people in the community with his videos about his slider tweaks and whatnot. NBA Live 09 is a title that I've revisited recently as well. And I was actually more fond of it revisiting it than I was when I first played it. I can appreciate the foot planning a little bit more. I like the shooting in that game. I like the visual appeal of the game, and I just like the overall pace and flow. I think it's a big improvement over NBA Live '08 in that, in relation to like the overall pace and flow. And I think that every now and then it's even a contender with NBA Live 10 from a gameplay standpoint. So awesome to hear that he's been revisiting some of the classic NBA Lives and, finding basically some of his old slider sets and getting some enjoyment out of that. As far as custom rosters in NBA 2K23, I think that it's hit or miss in relation to that. Like I stated in that thread, on 2K23, you can't use a custom roster in freestyle. So it makes, people who want to test out jump shots, if they're doing roster editing and whatnot, makes it a little bit harder. I've been having to use Blacktop in order to accomplish that, in order to look at people's shooting motions, make sure they're accurate, etc. And then Sticky Fingers stated also that he has issues with loading offline rosters, offline, period, in NBA 2K23. So, yeah, I think it's hit or miss, but I'm glad to see that he's playing the newest title. He's submitted a bunch of highlights from NBA 2K23 for the top 10 plays of the week, and obviously he loves his NBA Live.
And that flexibility in the roster customization is absolutely vital because, again, you go back to what Steve was doing from in NBA Live 09. All those roster edits, all those ratings edits, the slider editing, and there was that functionality to make the mass edits, which he put to great use, and as you said, the sliders as well. And not being able to do that with the new games is definitely a blow. And this whole issue with not being able to load rosters offline anymore, that's going to be a big issue when the 2K23 servers go offline. We're definitely getting to the age of disposable games, which again, Derek, is why people are going back to old ones.
Yeah, that's going to be a big problem in a couple of years for people who put all of that work into those rosters, right? And I hate the idea of disposable games. As you know, we're always playing the classics and whatnot. I also wanted to point out that it feels like on NBA 2K23, a lot of the sliders don't work or they're just broken. It's shot timing impact and shot coverage impact. And you can put those two at 0 in the sliders. I think they're default at 50. You can put them at 0 and you don't really notice any difference in the game shooting the ball, as far as like your shot timing being more lenient or the shot coverage impact. It just feels like those are just there for show. That's kind of how it feels. I'd be interested to see what the community said, to see if they actually noticed a difference by messing with those sliders. But it feels like there's a bunch of sliders in NBA 2K23 that are mostly there for show and don't actually alter what's happening on the court. And what I do appreciate, it feels like, when you go back and play like games like NBA Live 09 and whatnot, and some of the classic lives in general in 2Ks that had slider tweak options, when you actually made a change, you kind of felt that difference on the floor. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
You do wonder how much of a placebo effect there is with some sliders.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I've been talking about that since I was super messing with sliders back in like 2K18, when I would, pump up the defense to like 100 across the board. And there was like no difference whatsoever on the court. I could still just run by my defender. Help defense didn't come over, etc. And the coverage at the rim felt the same. So like, I definitely think there's been a placebo effect with many of the different slider options over the years.
Next up, we have basketball video games at B-Ball Video Games. Definitely a very enthusiastic basketball gamer, to be sure. Lots of classics. The NBA Shootout Series, NBA In the Zone Series, NBA Action 95, Lakers vs. Celtics, NBA Give and Go. But also played a good amount of 2K23 once it came out. Was and still am hooked on the My NBA Era mode. And yeah, I think My NBA Eras has definitely hooked a lot of people in, but those are some true classics that he's mentioned there as well.
So I'm definitely a fan of some people in our community, and I'm a fan of at B-Ball Video Games. And the reason is because he plays these classics for all the right reasons, right? And he still gives the newest game a chance, and he'll still promote the good things about the newest game. He'll provide critiques and whatnot, but he really tries to stay positive in the basketball gaming community. And I've seen him post, videos related to NBA Give and Go, Dunk Dream, Lakers versus Celtics. He plays everything, and he tries to have a great time no matter what he's playing, and he loves to show off the footage. He actually has a lot in common with you and I, if you really think about it. So I know that the list is incredibly long for the games that he played in 2022. And I applaud him on that.
And it's a good example of just follow your heart, if you will, and follow your interests with a game. If you get hooked on one, play it a lot, but if you want to just dabble with your big collections, as he has and we have as well, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah, and him and I actually connected on NBA 2K10, NBA Street Volume 2, and a few other games. And every single time I connect with him, it's a blast. Not only because he knows the games, and he knows basketball in general, but because of his attitude towards the game, right? That plays a big factor. He's very positive. He's going to enjoy the experience when he connects with you. So, and he's also open to playing a lot of different games. You will have people out there that will be like, well, I'll only play 2K13 URB or 2K14 UBR, or I will only play one of the newest games. But he's open to playing games from all different eras, and I think that's pretty damn cool.
I feel like you're calling me out there because I'm always the one playing, hey, Derek, let's play the same game over and over again. I'm a creature of habit. I've been called out.
I will say this, though. When I bring up a game to you, you never turn it down. Like, if I say to you, hey, let's get a game in on NBA Live 99, because remember I brought that up and I was like, hey, let's use the champs roster. Boom. We played it and we had a blast. The arcade dunks, that was your idea on NBA Live 2000. You hosted, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. I think that there's kind of an agreement between us that we're going to make any experience that we have a fun one.
Definitely.
And I think that works out really well.
I mean, that's going to be very challenging when we connect to play Olympic basketball on Steam, but we'll see.
There's certain games that I will recommend the community to stay away from because of maybe a gameplay experience or not being fair to the gamer. That game, I do not own it, but from the Steam video of the game, it looks very underdeveloped, and it's not a game that I'll be playing anytime soon.
Might be one to circle back to, if only to really dive deep into how not to make a basketball game in the modern era. But yes, definitely stay away from that one. But speaking of interesting choices, though, Derek, Teddy Bear the Gamer at 317 Teddy Bear played a lot of NBA Elite 11, and once 2K23 launched, was hooked on that as well.
Yeah, he was playing the jailbroken PS3 for NBA Elite 11, and I know that he was sharing a bunch of highlights on YouTube for that, and it definitely gained him quite a few subscribers and whatnot. And he was pulling off some pretty cool stuff in that game, and he was making it look pretty damn good. So props to him there. And I know that he's always on the newest title as well. He submitted a ton of highlights for NBA 2K22, and that was the newest title, and then NBA 2K23. I actually have a folder on my computer called Teddy Bear, and it has about 50 of his highlights in it from NBA 2K23. The Pippen one that was in the countdown this week, that's one of the ones from that folder. He's a super passionate basketball gamer. He loves using the retro teams and creating highlights with those, whether it be Jordan or Ewing or Pippen or Gerald Wilkins or Dennis Hobson. Yes, he sent me a clip of Dennis Hobson posterizing somebody. So, yeah, I appreciate his flexibility of going back and enjoying games from like the 360 era. And then in the next moment, he's jumping on NBA 2K23. So that's pretty cool.
Obviously, I'm going to be very careful about what I say about the legality of such things, but it is cool that the NBA Elite 11 leaked. Like a lot of there's been quite a few unreleased games over the years. Of course, there is the Shaq vs. the Legends for Sega Genesis that leaked as well. But I'm glad that those games did get out into the public some way, so that people have been able to see what they're all about.
Yeah, I'm glad that he can appreciate aspects of NBA Elite 11. I can appreciate aspects of that game. And while I don't agree with the hockey controls and just the overall direction of like dribbling in that game, I'm not really a fan of it. I don't think it really makes that much sense. I can appreciate the positive aspects of that game in relation to, I think the game looks great. I think the graphics are great in that game. The commentary is great. The atmosphere is great. And some of the animations look great, going to the hoop and whatnot. And some of the shooting animations are spot on. But yeah, I like the fact that Elite is getting a little bit of shine. I think that's good. And I like that a lot of these forgotten titles from the past, ones that don't get really talked about anymore, are getting a lot of shine lately. So that's good.
Really needed a sprint control, Elite.
Yeah, that and just I think it just needed to be released. And I know that there's people that are going to disagree with me on that, but I think it looked really bad for the company to not release the game that late in the cycle. And I think it was looked at more as a failure because they canceled more than it would have looked at as if it was actually released.
And they be completely bounced back to NBA Live 12. Yeah, I think it was ultimately more damaging to not release a game than a subpar one because, yeah, as you say,
right, the gaps hurt.
Even with a subpar game, people could probably find a way to enjoy it, ironically, or even just enjoy the stronger parts of it, but also give feedback on where they went wrong and what would be a viable way to improve it to the satisfaction of the community. So yeah, it was definitely damaging. It was going to be damaging either way, but I think that actually would have been a lesser of two evils. That's something I've come to think over the years as well.
Almost nothing is more important as far as building a brand than consistency.
Delivering, yeah. And
consistency and delivery. And I think that the fact that they have been so inconsistent since NBA Live 06, as far as from a gameplay perspective, ripping stuff out of the game that people liked, canceling in different years or for multiple years, etc. And then canceling after a decently strongly received game like NBA Live 19, which is getting above a 7 by reviewers like IGN and all of that stuff, then canceling after that. Like, I don't think any of that was good for the brand. Consistency was important, and they failed there.
Next up, we have Chuck at ChuckLA92, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, 2K13, 15, 16, 17, and 23. Lots of fun with 2K23 and 2K13. 10 years apart there, obviously. Also played a lot of 2K22 before 23 was released, and Inside Drive 2002.
So, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, a few people said that, and I think that it's awesome that people are appreciating that title. I think it's possibly the best arcade basketball game ever made. And I know that Sweet Jones _OTF, he was playing it. I believe VF Baller was playing it, at B-Ball Video Games, Stildo, you and I, like a bunch, Chuck LA, just a bunch of people in the community have been playing that game recently and revisiting it and just getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. I haven't heard one negative comment about that game from the community. It's hard to say anything negative about it and its features and its gameplay. I love the fact that he mentioned Inside Drive 2002. As you know, I revisited Inside Drive 2002, 2003, and 2004 quite a bit this year, and even uploaded a gameplay video to the NLSC YouTube of Inside Drive 2004. And those games are super underrated. They're still so fun to play. You and I connected on NBA Inside Drive 2003 and had a ton of fun, and that was your first experience with that game. It's a shame they don't make those games anymore. But yeah, I'm glad to see that game also got a little bit of shine this year.
Well, you know how I feel about On Fire Edition. That is probably my favorite game in the series. It is a candidate for the best game in the series, possibly best arcade basketball game of all time. It depends whether you prefer the Jam style or the NBA Street style, of course, because they are, although they are both have some similarities, they are a different style of basketball, different tone, if you will. But On Fire Edition is just spectacular. Apparently the service came back online last year, as you recall. We talked about it, and I put out that bulletin, grab the roster updates while you can. I did for PS3, so because I bought that game much after the servers had been switched off. I already had the update on 360, but it does sound like the servers are going offline again. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but later this month, January 2023, the servers are supposedly going offline again. So if you haven't grabbed haven't grabbed the roster update yet, I would recommend people get at least a month subscription of Xbox Live Gold, or whatever it's called now, if you don't already have one, and just you can always cancel it after a month. Just jump on there and get the roster updates as well, because it's worth having those new players.
Oh, 100%. And before we move on, I got to bring this up, Andrew. How fun was our session on the PlayStation version of NBA Hang Time?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I hadn't played that version before, because I played Nintendo 64 growing up. I hadn't played that one.
From a gameplay perspective, everything I like about NBA Jam on Fire Edition is basically in NBA Hang Time. That's why I love NBA Hang Time so much. It's the fast-paced gameplay. It's the ability to do a dribble move. It's the ability to throw alley-oops. It's the ability to make awesome defensive plays. You and I had so many good defensive plays. We were using Clyde Drexler. I was on Clyde Drexler, and you were on Hakeem Olajuwon. The computer is super challenging. The atmosphere is amazing. Like, NBA Hang Time, all the reasons I love NBA Jam on Fire Edition from a gameplay standpoint, like I stated, is the same reason why I love NBA Hang Time. And I think both of those two games might be my favorite arcade basketball games of all time, with Street Volume 2, if you wanted to call that arcade, being right there with them, or at least Street is, in my opinion, the greatest Street video game of all time.
Next up, we have Tecmo Bowl GGL. Participant in the tournaments, of course, the NLSC Parsec tournaments that you've been running, 2K23 Era Mode, 2K and 2K1 Dreamcast, and NBA Jam on Fire Edition.
Yeah, so Tecmo Bowl and I have actually connected on multiple games. We even did a stream together where we played NBA Showdown, played a little bit of NBA 2K22 at the time, and also NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, and we had a blast on that. That game's also super challenging, as you know. The computer is very hard on that game. I know that he loves the early 2000s 2Ks, that he's a huge fan of 2K, 2K1, and 2K2. Him and I connected, I want to say, on NBA 2K2 at one point. I think he used the Hornets, and we had a really good time playing that. I think that is the golden age of NBA 2K games for him. I think the early 2000s, and he loves those early titles. So it's nice to see that he's sticking with those.
Next up, we have the NBA Live 2001 Legends, Nate Starshow and Roger Ward. Nate mentions played NBA Live 2004 and 2005 this year for the first time in years. Both those games are amazing and the best, in his opinion, that Live has ever released. And Roger says Live 2001, obviously, 2003, 04, 05, NBA 2K11, 2K14, 2K16, 2K19, Shootout 2004. Other than 2001, they had a lot of fun with Live 2004, and they've been posting a lot of videos there. Getting into 2005, obviously, with the dunk contest, as people would have seen in the top 10 this week. And yeah, many classics there. I do agree that Live 2004 and 2005 are among the best in the series. I am partial to 06, as I've said before, but I do love 2004 and 2005. Had a lot of fun revisiting those as well with you, and also personally some solo play this past year, and actually Live 2001, Derek, I revisited that this past year as well. It's a game that, as I said when we had the guys on the show, that I've had mixed feelings about over the years. I've both really liked it and also kind of turned on it, maybe overcorrecting my opinion on it with some of my criticisms over the years. But I really do like 2001. I did get very nostalgic for that period of my life because of the my 20-year high school reunion, as I mentioned multiple times last year, and revisiting 2001 was a big part of that. And yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with it.
You and I had a great session on Live 2005 for the PC version, and we were playing on the same team. And a lot of people liked that gameplay video that I uploaded. So yeah, Live 2005, great game, one of the best in the series. Live 2001, you and I also revisited that and played against the computer multiple times, co-op. And even earlier in 2022, we played against each other for a couple games. I also have mixed feelings about that game. They moved to a new motion system. The gameplay wasn't completely it wasn't strong overall yet. Like, the issues hadn't really been ironed out. However, I want to echo a point that Nate made when he was on the show. One thing that's really good about NBA Live 2001 is it actually forces you to use strategy. Like it forces you to dump the ball into the post. It forces you to exploit mismatches. It forces you to put in like a tall shooter to get off like a last second shot and whatnot. It forces you to have really good timing if you're going to jump for a rebound and stuff like that. So I like the fact that while there's definitely gameplay issues, the game can get super frustrating at times. I do like the fact that you indeed do have to use strategy and that you do have to use players to their strengths. I also want to point out Roger and Nate, they have been absolutely killing it. They killed it all 2022 with their YouTube uploads and their social media uploads in relation to the early 2000s lives, and even games like NBA Shootout 2004, a quick highlight on NBA Shootout 2001, alley-oops on NBA 2K11 to, from Wade to LeBron and whatnot. They really they improved their collection of basketball gaming, and they shared more footage of more games than ever on their channel. And I watched their subscriber count go up. They went from around, I want to say 80 to 90 subscribers to now over 200 on their YouTube channel. And for the type of footage that they upload for games that are well over a decade old most of the time, the fact that they're getting a bunch of subscribers and they're getting people tuning in, they should pat themselves on the back because I think they're doing a really good job.
Absolutely. That's been really cool to see. And again, other people like us making content about those older games and really just enjoying them and letting passion drive content creation, which is so important.
They're doing what they love. They're
Exactly.
playing what they want and they're doing what they love, and people are seeing that. And the fact that they're actually putting themselves on video as well for most of the footage that they upload, and people get to see them, they get to see their reactions and everything. They've kind of built like Roger throwing his head in his hand after he gets posterized by Nate. Like that is something that is rare actually in the retro basketball gaming community. They're a couple of the only people that are doing that are actually putting their faces out there and letting people connect with them that way. So I think that's pretty awesome that they're doing that.
Absolutely. Next up, we have NBA Live BR at NBA Live BR, the Brazilian supporter of NBA Live there. NBA Live 19, NBA Live 10, and NBA 2K23. And it is really cool to see NBA Live 19 continue to have that following, Derek. I'm not a huge fan of Live 19, I will admit. I feel it went too far towards the streets rather than the NBA side of things, but people are really loving Live 19 still. There's a dedicated community, and it speaks to how people will really give NBA Live a chance if it wants to jump back into the space.
NBA Live BR is cool as hell. I had him on Virtual Hoop Dreams, and we had a few episodes there. It was me, Swaggy P, Lino, and him. And he talked about his experiences with the games and what he'd like to see from the games and everything. And he's just a cool dude. And he's a retro gamer as well. And he loves NBA Live 19. He will still consistently play that, and he still streams it. I get notifications on my YouTube when he starts streaming. But he has not shut out 2K either. And I also think that's cool for somebody who, in his name, it literally says NBA Live, right? NBA Live BR. But he will still, play NBA 2K23 and whatnot and talk about that. Yeah, this guy's cool. He's a cool dude.
You do need to have that open-mindedness. And I'll put my hand up and say that even into my early 20s, I was very much flying the flag for NBA Live and not really giving 2K enough time to really win me over, and eventually it did. And yes, there were certainly some changes that it made it more accessible to a long-time Live fan, as I've said before. But no, having that open mind is vital. I mean, in all things in life, obviously, but certainly in the scope of video games, which we cover here on the NLSC podcast. Be open-minded about those games.
Yeah, I spent a ton of time on the original NBA 2K, and I played 2K throughout the years. But our primary choices for basketball video games in the early mid-2000s was NBA Live. And it's because, it had the gameplay that we wanted, it had the depth that we wanted, it had the legends we wanted, all of that stuff. We officially, as far as like doing fantasy drafts and all of that stuff, and all three of us playing together, me and my brothers, our official switch was with the NBA 2K7, because you know how much of a disappointment NBA Live 07 was. But yeah, I never considered myself flying the flag for either. I just always played. We always played the game that had the options that we wanted, right? Sure. And the gameplay that we wanted. But this is also why we need competition in the space, right? Because it would be nice right now to have an alternative to NBA 2K. I think it would be great to have NBA Live in there or another company making a game so people do have options. And like NBA Live VR, he wouldn't have to go back and play NBA Live 19. He could have a new NBA Live with updated rosters, and he could get share that footage and get the community involved.
Another year of crossing our fingers?
I still think they're coming back. I really do. So I've said that for a couple of years now. I absolutely do still think that they're gonna come back eventually.
Next up, we have One Kidney Kenny, Stildo33, of course, in the forum, NBA 2K19, College Hoops 08, NBA Jam on Fire Edition, and NBA 2K14. And he doesn't mention it, but you, of course, have the ongoing season, 1995 season in 2K19, with all that fun and trash talk.
Stildo has become a friend. Him and I talk on the phone. We text and everything. And I just want to say publicly on the podcast, if there was anybody that I thought would sign up for Twitter Blue, it would be him. And guess who has a blue check? Ken.
yeah.
Stildo.
Yeah, I see it,
so, well, One Kidney Kenny. But he is a super nice guy. He's really good at the video games. He's very passionate about roster mods and roster creation. He loves the 90s NBA and the 80s NBA, but specifically the 90s and whatnot. And that shows with the amount of effort and quality of those amazing mods for NBA 2K19. Him and I have had a blast with that season, and we're still planning on finishing it and whatnot, where it's a 94-95 season where I'm using the Supersonics, and he's using his favorite Orlando Magic with Shaq and Penny. And he loved NBA 2K17. I know he's revisited that a little bit. But I think his heart is really with NBA 2K19. And I want it to stay there. And the reason is because I just want him to keep pumping out these amazing roster mods because I play them all the time.
That was the video clip you put with the prompt this week, the Sean Kemp dunk from that season.
I'm very proud of that, and that might go in the top 10 this week because that's a swat on one end by Sam Perkins. He was using the Clippers. He actually competed with me pretty well with a decently poor Clippers team there. I block him on one end with Sam Perkins and then posterize him with Sean Kemp on the other end, and it's a very Sean Kemp-like poster dunk. That game just really has its moments. It really shines. My brother and I actually last night was playing one of the classic season roster mods. We were playing the 92-93 season, and we were playing the All-Star game. And the jerseys and the courts and the authenticity, it's like, man, this is absolutely stunning. And we were just pulling off all of these cool highlights, and just be on the lookout in next week's top 10, because my brother pulled off an awesome play during that game, and it will absolutely be in the top 10 this week.
Was that Elmore Spencer on the Clippers there?
Who I posterized?
Yes.
I can't remember exactly who it was, but if there's anybody that I would have posterized in that game, it would probably have been Elmore Spencer.
It's amazing the players that you remember from watching the NBA at the time and also collecting cards and playing the video games. Marty Conlon is my go-to, as you know, my man, Marty Conlon. But
one of the strangest free throw styles in NBA history, Marty Conlon. Yeah. He played for my Celtics. He was on that 96-97 15-win team, and it was hard not to root for the guy because he was such an awkward player, but the dude could outright play. So he would have his moments where he would really impact the game, and you're just like on the edge of your seat, like, what is Marty going to do next?
Marty Conlon or Andrew DeClercq, if you have to choose?
I loved all my Andrew DeClercq easily. I'm a huge DeClercq fan. We growing up, we loved the hustle guys, right?
Of course.
And Andrew DeClercq was all hustle. He was just an absolute force when it came to like diving for loose balls, trying to box out for other people to get rebounds or himself to get the rebound. His body, he just felt like he was everywhere. So DeClercq was an easy fan favorite, and I absolutely choose DeClercq over Conlon.
Next up, we have King J Mace. Says College Hoops 2K8. That tourney you hosted was for fire emojis, and I absolutely agree. People had a blast with that. It was really cool that the actual finalists made the finals of that tournament.
So King J Mace is one of my favorite people when it comes to content creators. And the reason is because he appreciates the classics, whether it be basketball, video games, or like real classic basketball. I've heard him in streams, sticking up for guys like Steve Francis or like 90s ballers like Penny or something like that. Like, I really appreciate him for, trying to be a student of the game as well, right? But he's a great voice on the mic. Whenever he streams, he's on the mic. He gets people pumped up. People are excited and having fun in the chat and everything. He's very good at bringing people together and producing great content. And he does a lot of that. He did a lot of it with NBA 2K22, and now he's doing it with 2K23. But he brought up the College Hoops 2K8 tournament. I am so happy with the way that turned out because we had 16 participants from all over the world, as you know. There's people living in all different parts of the world and everything. And, we all connected on Parsec. I got highlights from every single game up on the NLSC YouTube and up on the NLSC forums, and I shared them on Twitter as well. And, there isn't one person that played in the tournament out of all 16 participants that had a complaint. They were happy to be part of the tournament. They were happy to, be competitive, try to work towards a win and, to be able to move on and everything. And they, gave their best effort, and I couldn't have asked for it to go any better. So I'm really happy that King J Mace had fun with it. I know Nate had a blast with it as well. Kid Cash was in it and he had fun. 707, it was really bringing the community together, playing a really good basketball game. And it was just awesome.
A lot of goodwill in that. And I think that's what King J Mace really promotes with his content. As you said, that enjoyment of basketball. It's not about creating content to get clout or anything like that. It's just he creates content for the same reasons that we do. And I guess that makes us a little biased, but no, I love his approach.
Yeah, and his commentary is so good.
Yes.
That I actually look forward to him submitting a highlight, when he's streaming, and he'll go up for a big dunk and he'll say something like, J-May's top floor, hey, or something like that. And it goes perfectly with the highlight. And it looks so good and sounds so good in the top 10 plays of the week. I think he's a good host. Let's put it that way. He's a good content creator and he's a good host.
Definitely. Next up, we have Shuajoda, modern in the community, of course, NBA 2K22 PC, and NBA 2K23 PS5. So getting more into the next-gen version with the latest release.
He's done a lot of great work for the community. He's released a lot of great mods for the community. He is an excellent cyberface maker. He really pays attention to FIBA basketball and creates great mods around that, which I think there's definitely a demand for. There's a lot of people that love those mods and want that type of gameplay experience and roster experience in general. I'm impressed with how much work he's able to get done. I think that he definitely is. I feel like he's a full-time modder. And I think that that's very hard to remain patient and focused when you're a full-time modder, but he's able to do that. So I am thoroughly impressed there. I also know that he's created multiple faces for the NBA 2K19 retro roster. So I appreciate him for that as well. But yeah, he does a lot of different modding and a lot of different roster making.
Next up, we have Lil Dino 713, NBA Street Volume 2, NBA Street Volume 3, or V3 rather, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, College Hoops 2K8, NBA Jam 2000, NBA Playgrounds, NBA Showtime, NBA 2K22 and 2K23, and NBA Live 19. I think the one that surprises me most there is NBA Jam 2000. I'm not going to dump on anybody's choices, Derek, but I am surprised because that's not a game that I particularly enjoy myself.
Well, I see kind of a trend there. Lil Dino likes the street ball / arcade scene. And he's also been in the top 10 a couple times. I know that he's friends with King J Mace for some of his street ball exploits when it comes to playing in King J Mace's ESL Elite Street League and whatnot. And I think it's awesome that it sounds like he stays consistent and continues just to play the games that he really likes. And that's that brand of basketball. When I do run the NBA Street Volume 2 tournament, I'll have to reach out to him and see if he wants to play in it, because it sounds like he really likes that play style.
Next up, we have Demand Respect, says NBA 2K23. I play all modes. And was he in the top 10 this week, or am I thinking of last week's countdown?
No, he was. He was number 4.
That's right.
This week with a ridiculous poster dunk on the fast break. One of those reaching poster dunks that I love, where the player, he like cocks it back and reaches as far as he can because his body's so far away from the basket. And he throws it down and still finds a way to throw it down with authority. Those sometimes are the best looking dunks. So yeah, he's been in the top 10 a couple times, submitted a few highlights, and I know that he's a content creator as well, and people enjoy his footage. So yeah, hopefully he continues to submit highlights.
Caleb Swint says NBA 2K22 and 2K23, NBA Live 19, NBA Ballers Phenom, NBA Live 2004, and NBA Live 2005, and a couple of great games there. I haven't played Phenom. I think that one is actually a North American exclusive. I don't think I can actually get that one.
Yeah, I played it. I will always prefer the original NBA Ballers over any other game, and not just for nostalgia purposes. I just like the game's direction, the gameplay, the players that you can unlock and whatnot. I just like the whole game.
The incredible graphics.
I think it's underrated. Oh my God, the graphics are ridiculous. Some of those cyber faces are better than what we get today. I know that they're not fully animated sometimes, but as far as like the face and the way they look in the game, it's like I want to put that dude on the floor because that looks just like him. But he mentioned Live 2004 and Live 2005, which were pretty popular in the community this year. The early mid Live 2000s kind of had quite a bit of shine. I would say in 2022 overall. And it is nice to see that because, as you stated, that's kind of like one of the golden ages of NBA Live before they went downhill.
And Caleb also mentions NBA Jam on Fire Edition as well. So definitely a popular release on Fire Edition, and rightfully so.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people mention that. And like I said, probably my favorite arcade basketball game ever.
Next up, Colin Ford says that he played Basketball GM every day for a year and change and just had way too much fun with it. That's a management game from the sounds of things.
So yeah, management games, there's still quite the demand for that. It's not something that I'm into because I want to be able to directly impact, like I want to control players on the court, right? I don't want to just throw players out there in a simulation scenario and just watch them pile up stats, right? Or like see just like play by play. Like that's not something that interests me personally, but there's definitely demand for it. There was this game in the 90s called Micro League Football. I don't know if you remember that. But my oldest brother really got into it. And it's not a game that he played, actually. What he would do is he would create rosters for that game, and he would basically watch every game, and the players would compile their stats. He would hook up his printer to his computer, and he would print out those stats, and he would keep them in a binder. And that was super exciting for him. That was fun. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there that still like that type of game. It's just not for me.
I agree. I've never really been into that. I want to influence the action. I know there's a lot of people that will throw on an NBA Live or NBA 2K and not assign a controller, and basically either play it in coach mode or just watch the games, and that's absolutely fine. Do what is enjoyable to you. But for me, I've never been able to get into that because I want to influence the action and make the highlights, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. However, I'm not going to deter anybody from downloading any Basketball Manager games because I still think it can scratch that itch.
Except the one that's charging $1.69 for micro for.
Don't buy that one.
Yeah,
we're not going to say the name of that one, but if you ever see a game for like a basketball management game for like $7 or something like that, look into it a little bit further before you buy it because you don't want to support that type of game. But
absolutely.
As far as management games, if you love basketball, it can still scratch that itch.
Next up, we have Gooch Handler. That's up there with Juicy Shack Meat as far as screen names. Tip of the hat to you, sir. 2K23 a bit, but mostly been playing NBA Live 19 for the past couple of years. I wish the franchise was deeper, but I just find the gameplay more fun. And clearly not alone on that one. But yeah, the franchise mode, that was disappointing what happened with franchise, because Live brought franchise to basketball gaming with Live 2000 PC, and then it kind of rested on its laurels and never really, apart from a Live 08 brought in the Push Dynasty, and they brought in the NBA Live Academy, and they made a few improvements here and there, but compared to what 2K was doing with the association, and then later My GM and My League, and now My NBA, Live kind of brought it in and didn't really do enough with it over the years, and of course they took out the multiplayer that you and your brothers love, and also then on this past generation, the 8th generation games, Dynasty, and then the quote-unquote streamlined franchise mode was quite disappointing. So I know what he's talking about there. As a long-time franchise game back in the day, I know what he's talking about.
Well, we've talked about it. One of the biggest reasons for decline with the NBA Live series and kind of like the reception being poor in a lot of their games is the fact that they didn't have depth in the newest game that they had 15, 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Right. They removed features that people liked. They removed the ability to use offline legends. They removed the ability to do multi-user franchise, and they dumbed down the season/franchise mode in general. There is absolutely no reason that you release a game in 2018 that is not as deep as a game that you released in 2003. And that's one of just the big downfalls. Where I will agree with him is I think that at times you could look at NBA Live 19 as more sim than, say, NBA 2K23. Maybe a little bit more balanced gameplay-wise as far as, like basically a little bit better foot planning and whatnot. The shooting is better in NBA Live 19 than it is in NBA 2K23. There's definitely positive gameplay elements that are in NBA Live 19 that are better overall for the user experience for a lot of people than NBA 2K23. So I can see where he's coming from there.
Next up we have Cortez says a ton of NBA Live 2003 and NBA Jam OFE, and I wholeheartedly support both.
He stuck with the retro games in 2022, and nothing wrong with that. NBA Jam OFE, NBA Live 2003, two great releases.
Chris Dion says NBA 2K13, NBA 2K21, 2K22, and 2K23. And of course now 2K21 servers have just gone offline. I did spend a bit of time on New Year's Eve, Derek. Plans fell through, and then were pushed forward to New Year's Day. I did spend a bit of time in the evening or in the afternoon going through going through the online content in 2K21 and getting some final screenshots and footage, because that's gone now.
Yeah. You also, you took a ride through, what was it, the city?
The city, yeah.
In NBA 2K21, and it was lonely, isolating, and troubling. It looked like it was a very strange experience to basically just go around in an empty city and whatnot. So yeah, it is a shame. It feels like disposable games, and that's a bummer. I do love how he snuck NBA 2K13 in there with the newest titles. I revisited NBA 2K13 quite a bit in 2022, and very recently as last night, with my brother playing head-to-head and everything. And man, that title is still so good. The gameplay is still so good and fun, and it feels like NBA action. I love NBA 2K13.
Yeah, as for the Lonely City, and of course I did put that footage out there with Tiger Town's Lonely Cities from the NBA 2K17 soundtrack out there on Twitter. Normally I don't. Normally when I'm going around a lonely city like that and a deserted city in a video game, I'm expecting a mutated creature to jump out, because it's in the Fallout series. But no mutated creatures, but definitely some eeriness going around that empty server for sure.
Yeah, that didn't look like fun.
Next up we have Sluggy Sports. Played 2K14 with the UBR, 2K22 and 2K23, NBA 2K17 with your Ultimate Classic Teams roster, and had a lot of fun with 2K14 UBR. Yeah,
Sluggy Sports is actually, I've connected with him multiple times on Parsec, and he's participated in many of the NLSC tournaments that I was running at the beginning of last year, and then, the year before. Awesome member of the community, really cool to connect with and whatnot. And he's another guy who will play anything. He'll play the newest title, he'll play older titles and whatnot. I know that he has a particular fondness to games like 2K13, 2K14, and 2K17. And I also want to say that he played NBA 2K19 a bit as well. Really cool to have people like Sluggy Sports in the community.
Next up, we have Kid Cash 202. Probably played NBA Hang Time more than any other basketball game this year. Didn't play 2K22 or 2K23. Am I done with new games? I wonder. And yeah, that is why people are revisiting the classics, Derek, because they're getting, I think, tired of that disposable approach and the grind and whatnot, or simply the design of the gameplay and the modes. And if you are feeling that way, sure, leave them for people who enjoy them and go back and find what you enjoy. Don't be pressured into playing the latest game just because it's trendy.
Kid Cash is old school, and I love it. He's played in a couple of our tournaments as well, and him and I have connected on a couple of games. In fact, we connected on Street Volume 2 at one point. I would not play the newest game if it wasn't for playing co-op with my brother. Obviously, I dabbled in my team this year and whatnot. But if I wasn't playing co-op with him, I would not be playing against the computer in any other mode besides my team. I just don't think the game is strong enough for that. I think it has too many gameplay issues overall. And you and I have talked about that on past episodes of the podcast. I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay direction with the NBA 2K series. And I don't think it's very good for competitive play. But I do love that he sticks with the classics. And like I said, he's an old school guy.
And it is unfortunate with if you are an online gamer, you like the online competitive scene. I mean, there's a lot to be disappointed with there as far as the design, the lack of matchmaking, and the lack of balance and everything. But you don't have a choice if you do want to play the online modes. I mean, of course, you have the choice of going back and playing either Parsec. So I shouldn't say you have absolutely no choice. But if you want to play Playground and My Team Online and 2K Pro-Am and the Rec and everything, it's got to be the newest game, unfortunately. So you are kind of stuck in that rut. But if you do feel stuck in that rut, to that point, Derek, do branch out and try these other games.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that joined the NLSC Discord recently who have an entire site dedicated to NBA Live 2005 and running NBA Live 2005 tournaments, right? So there's opportunities out there for you to connect with other people and be competitive on classic titles, whether it be just connecting for a quick exhibition game or jumping into a tournament or something like that. So definitely utilize people in the community and your resources because you may be able to get that gameplay experience, that connection, and that quality experience that you want with a classic title. You just got to use your resources.
So we've had some excellent answers so far. A couple more to get through here. Hookup Guy says, play, more like test mods out. But 2K23 and 2K20 is what he's playing. If he wants a blacktop feel, he goes to 2K22.
Yeah, Hookup Guy is an amazing modder, one of the best in the community. He does such amazing work when it comes to courts, arenas. He tries to, every detail matters to him. Thoroughly impressed with his ability in Blender, in Photoshop, all the different things that he can do. And he's really making people's experiences better with these games. He worked on the NBA 2K19 retro team rosters as well, worked on arts. I want to say he did a little bit with arenas as well for those seasons. And he is such a valuable resource to the community that I hope he doesn't go anywhere.
Relhouse says NBA Live 18, 19, NBA Jam, and NBA Ballers. And there's some pretty good Jam games out there from the original all the way through to On Fire Edition, as we've said. 18 and 19 obviously have that dedicated following still. And NBA Ballers, kind of an overlooked one, but as you say, Derek, the original was a classic.
I miss Relhouse's highlights in the NLSC Top 10. He's been tied up, hasn't been able to play as much lately, but he had some of the greatest Live 19 highlights when he was submitting them. Just great passes, great two-way plays, great throwdowns, and everything. So I hope he gets back into it eventually. But we also had VF Baller share a picture of what he's been playing in 2022.
Oh, that's
what
right,
he had
yes.
been playing. And he showed NBA Live 10 and NCAA Basketball 10. And I think that's awesome because when I first met him and he was submitting highlights for the top 10 and everything, I know that he was big into like NBA Live 05, NBA Live 06 and whatnot. I know that I believe he's played some of the newer games as well at some point, but he, when he was done with those and maybe he needed to move on, he went to some more recent titles, started playing the college basketball games, started playing NBA Live 10 and everything, and got his, basketball gaming fix off of those. Very well versed. He has a huge collection. And I thought it was cool that he was revisiting both the NBA and college title from 2010.
Absolutely, it's just a shame that as he pointed out in that in an earlier tweet that they're not connected. That you can't import from NCAA Basketball 10 to NBA Live 10, which was something you could do in earlier games, but they did lose by that time.
I think something that a lot of basketball gamers wanted in the past was the ability to share rosters across the NBA and college game and everything in order to, add to the realism and, have like players or teams and whatnot make that jump and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be a cool feature if we ever get another college basketball video game. Let's say if 2K comes out with a college basketball game or NBA Live returns and then a college basketball game also returns, is making sure that those games can like interact with each other.
It seems like an essential feature, doesn't it? With all the connectivity between games and the fact you have the better storage solutions on modern titles, it's it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, sure, it's easy to implement, but it would seem the technology is there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it can absolutely be done, no matter what. It's just if they decide to do it.
And a couple more, just going through the threads, don't want to miss them out. iMason KOG says, Blacktop mod brought a lot of fun to 2K22 for me. That's the Blacktop Plus mod, rather. Otherwise, I played a lot of 2K14 and 2K11.
Yeah, 2K14, 2K11, two of the best games in the series. 2K11, a lot of people still say it's the greatest basketball video game ever made. You and I have talked about it and revisited it as well. Still really fun. You were modding it for a while. Great gameplay, brought Jordan back, brought classic teams in, really focused on the legends, great presentation. Just can't say enough good things about NBA 2K11. 2K14 has been your staple for a while now. You're on season 5 of my career. Never gets old to look at, never gets old to play. Great game. And I know that the Blacktop Plus mod, I think it was created by Luya, was a huge hit in the community, and a lot of people were using that and getting a good experience out of it.
And finally, we have JMO, latest games, My League, with community-made rosters and mods. The most fun I've had is playing co-op with cousins or player locked through the playoffs with single elimination instead of best of 7. So yeah, the old school ways of playing are definitely sometimes still the best.
JMO and I have that in common. We talked about it actually on Twitter chat. He really enjoys the local play. He really enjoys local co-op. And he even has fun with like fantasy type situations, whether it be fantasy drafts, but also with like Dragon Ball Z characters or Mario characters. And he is a absolutely amazing modder as far as character creation. He released mods for the community, all for free. And it was the Ninja Turtles, it was Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, it was DBZ characters, it was anime characters, it was all just you name it, he was doing it. And his creations are very high quality, so I hope people check him out.
And again, Derek, all of those responses just highlight how people are playing the latest game, yes, and having fun with it, but how going back to old favorites or just sticking with a game that's a few years old there's no shame in it. There's no problem with it. It's if you're not enjoying the latest game, the latest basketball game, go back to an old game. There are plenty of great mods that keep those old favorites up to date, and you can get the best of both worlds. If you want the modern rosters, the current rosters, you can play that in an old game because of all these great mods. So people are just having a blast with a variety of games. Love to see it. Hope to see those games showing up in the top 10 throughout the year.
And how awesome is the community in general? Like, they stayed active all year, with their love for basketball video games, and they're playing all these different titles. A bunch of the people that you mentioned share footage on their Twitter handle, or they have a YouTube where they're uploading footage, and they're just having fun with the games, having fun sharing those experiences with us and with the rest of the community. Just hats off to the basketball gaming community, because they're pretty awesome.
100%. And we'll be right there with you playing a variety of games this year. Got a couple of requests, Derek, to play some more Live 98, 99, and 2000 with some of those old rosters. And I think we can make that happen.
Oh my God, don't force me to have fun. You can't do that.
If we must.
Yeah, I guess if I have to. No, yeah, I'll definitely, we can revisit those and upload that footage. And with the tools that we have with Movavi and everything in our recording software, it's pretty easy to string those highlights together and give the community a show. So that'll be fun.
we will be doing that throughout 2023. We are going to be bringing you the podcast every week. Of course, my articles, all the footage that we upload, the top 10, naturally, that I know a lot of people are waiting for that top 10 every single week, and rightfully so. So there's going to be a lot of great content coming throughout 2023. We're going to have a lot of fun with games, Derek. I'm very sure of that, and I think we're going to be right there with the community as far as that's concerned.
It's going to be an excellent year, and fingers crossed that we do get some news about NBA Live, and that when we start getting news about NBA 2K24, that it's stuff that is fair to the gamer and that people can get excited about. You know what I mean? And hopefully the preview season is what people want it to be. And if you, like you had stated, if we don't get any news about a new NBA Live, or you don't plan on picking up NBA 2K24, or even if you do end up buying it and whatnot later this year, you always have those classics to fall back on. And you can have a lot of fun with those classics, let's put it that way.
Plenty to play and plenty to talk about in the year to come, so please stay tuned. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week, either on the NLSC, nb-live.com, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us and stay up to date with all of our aforementioned content. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at D43G or at D4384. Preferably connect with me on both. I'm on the NLSC D43 and also on YouTube D43.
I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC is on Twitter and Facebook at the NLSC. Our Instagram is NLSC Basketball. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.